On December 10, 1967, the world of soul music was shaken to its core. Otis Redding, the man whose voice could move mountains and soothe broken hearts, boarded a small plane with his band. Just hours later, that plane would fall from the sky into the freezing waters of Wisconsin, silencing one of the most promising voices of a generation. The tragedy of Otis Redding's final flight remains one of the darkest chapters in music history. Otis Redding was more than a singer. He was a force of nature. Born in Dawson, Georgia in 1941, he grew up singing in church and dreaming of making music his life. By his early 20s, he had signed with Stax Records and begun to reshape soul music with his deep, passionate delivery. Songs like Try a Little Tenderness, Respect, later made famous by Aretha Franklin, and These Arms of Mine, revealed not just his talent, but his raw humanity. His music didn't just entertain, it reached into people's souls. By 1967, Otis was already considered the king of soul, and yet many believed he was only beginning to tap into his full potential. In December 1967, Otis and his backing group, the Bar-Kays, embarked on a short tour through the Midwest. Despite the cold winter weather, spirits were high. His career was soaring, and he had just finished recording what would become his signature song, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay. On December 9th, he appeared on the Upbeat Show in Cleveland, Ohio, and later that night performed a concert. Exhausted but excited for the future, Otis prepared for the next stop, Madison, Wisconsin. The flight that changed everything. The next afternoon, December 10th, Otis boarded his twin-engine Beechcraft H-18 with 4 members of the Bar-Kays, his assistant, and the pilot, Richard Fraser. The weather was grim: thick fog, icy rain, and near-freezing temperatures. Despite the risks, the flight took off from Cleveland, heading toward Madison. For most of the journey, everything seemed routine, but as the plane approached Madison's Trax Field, something went horribly wrong. At around 3:30 p.m., the aircraft lost contact with air traffic control. Seconds later, witnesses on the ground reported hearing the roar of an engine, followed by a deafening crash. The plane plunged into the icy waters of Lake Monona, just 3 miles short of the runway. Inside the aircraft, panic must have erupted as the plane descended rapidly. Did Otis know those would be his final moments? Did the band exchange fearful glances as the fog grew thicker and the ground rushed closer? No one can say for certain, but survivors described the chaos of impact: the water slamming into the fuselage, the sound of tearing metal, and the sudden darkness as the plane sank. Of the 8 men on board, only one survived: Ben Colley, the trumpet player for the Bar-Kays. He later recalled waking up in the freezing water, clinging to a seat cushion as he watched his friends and mentor vanish beneath the lake. His haunting testimony gives us a chilling glimpse into the terror of those final minutes. The news spread quickly. At just 27 years old, Otis Redding was gone. Along with him, 4 members of the Bar-Kays, Jimmy King, Ronnie Caldwell, Phelan Jones, and Carl Cunningham, also perished. The crash robbed the world not only of a superstar, but also rising young musicians with boundless potential. For fans, it was unthinkable. Just 1 day earlier, Otis had been performing, full of life and energy. Now he was gone, taken not by drugs, not by scandal, but by a cruel accident of weather and fate. The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, concluded that the crash was likely caused by poor weather conditions and possible mechanical failure. Ice may have built up on the wings, making the plane impossible to control. In those days, small aircraft lacked many of the safety features that might have prevented such a disaster. It was a tragedy that might have been avoided had the flight been delayed, but Otis's packed schedule and determination to perform likely influenced the decision to go ahead. Could Otis Redding have become one of the greatest artists of all time if he had lived? The answer in many ways is yes. He was already at the top of the charts, and his last recording, "Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay," would go on to become his most iconic song, released just weeks after his death. It became the first posthumous single to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. This haunting ballad, with its reflective lyrics and melancholic tone, almost felt like a goodbye letter to the world. Was it coincidence, or did Otis somehow sense that his time was short? Even in death, Otis Redding's influence only grew. His music inspired generations of artists, from soul legends like Al Green and Marvin Gaye to rock icons like Janis Joplin and the Rolling Stones. His raw emotion, his ability to connect with audiences, and his timeless voice remain unmatched. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989, and today his songs are still celebrated as some of the most powerful ever recorded. The terrifying last minutes of Otis Redding's life were filled with fear, chaos, and tragedy. But the story of his life is filled with love, passion, and artistry. He gave everything to his music, and in return, his music continues to give to the world. Otis Redding was just 27 years old when his journey ended in the freezing waters of Lake Monona. Yet in those short years, he changed music forever. His final flight may have ended in sorrow, but his voice, raw, soulful, eternal, still soars. He is gone, but never forgotten.